So hello, everyone. I'm going to conduct this presentation in English, if that suits you okay. I'll go slowly, if that helps. So I'm just going to talk to you for about 15-20 minutes about the University of Glasgow and tell you a little bit about the type of university we are and what we can offer to you. So you can see from the lovely picture there, we're quite an old university. We're located on the west side of the city of Glasgow. Just a few key facts about Glasgow, and as we go through the presentation, I'll show you lots of lovely pictures of the campus as well, where the sun is shining, and the sun does shine. We're in Scotland. It doesn't always shine, but we do get sunshine sometimes, and we're very happy when we do. So a few key facts about Glasgow. We were established in 1451, so we are a very, very old university, classified as one of the ancient universities within the United Kingdom and also within Scotland. We're actually the fourth oldest university in the English-speaking world. So we're coming up to 550 years old. We'll be 600 years old not too long from now. Also thinking about the quality of the institution, we are a top 100 university, so we are always ranked within the top 100 within the Times Higher Education and within the QS ranking as well, and we're very proud of that too. And in 2022 we've been awarded the Scottish University of the Year by the Times, which is one of our big newspapers here in the United Kingdom. A few other key things to know about Glasgow. We are quite a large university. We have around 33,000 students from over 140 countries. So for the UK, that is a fairly large-sized institution. And we're also a member of the Russell Group. So the Russell Group is a group of research-intensive UK universities. It's a group of around 23 universities that focus a lot on research, that offer a lot of big subject areas and big areas of research. So you might compare them a little bit to the Ivy League in the USA, but it's almost like an elite group of research-intensive universities in the UK. So continuing on the theme of rankings, we have some very strong rankings by subject as well. So when you look at guides like the Complete University Guide or the Guardian newspaper, you can see a lot of subject rankings there. So if you know what you want to study, it's quite a useful way to get an idea of where the quality is. And as you can see, we've got a large range of subjects, all located within the top 10 within the Complete University Guide for 2023. So let's think about our community at Glasgow now, and also looking back in time. We have some very, very famous alumni going back hundreds of years in some cases. So we have Adam Smith, who was the founder of modern economics. So he was a student at Glasgow many years ago and also taught economics at Glasgow and helped to establish the values that we have that continue today within our business school, which we've named after him. Also, we have named our School of Engineering after James Watt. He was a famous engineer, particularly in steam power back in the 19th century, and was very important in the United Kingdom, in Scotland's Industrial Revolution. And on top of that, we have lots of famous scientists. So we have Lord Kelvin, who invented the Kelvin temperature scale. So he was a famous physicist. We also have John Logie Baird, who helped to invent the television. So all of these are famous names that studied at Glasgow many years ago, but have really helped to shape the world today as we know it. And also just thinking about recent alumni. So these are alumni that are still alive today, which is great. So we have Nicola Sturgeon. She's our First Minister of Scotland. So she leads on a lot of areas in Scotland, which is obviously part of the UK, but is devolved within the United Kingdom in many areas, like, for example, education and in health, where we are quite independent. Also, famous arts graduates like Stephen Moffat and John Tiffany, who have helped to produce many of our famous films and famous TV programs that you may know about, like Harry Potter, Doctor Who, Sherlock, that kind of thing. And we also have Mary Black, who was the youngest elected MP in modern history. She studied with us at Glasgow not too long ago. So you might be wondering about whether we have many Latin American students at Glasgow. So we do have quite a strong community of around 200 plus students from right across the region. And we're getting a growing number of students coming from Peru. At the moment, the numbers are probably less than 10, but we hope that that will grow quite soon. But what we find is that students from across the region, from Colombia, from Ecuador, but also further north from Mexico, also from Brazil, Chile, these are the main countries that we get students from, and they often form form quite a nice community of Latin American students at Glasgow. They tend to study lots of different subjects, mostly at master's level, with a few doing their PhD with us as well. And they are studying across a range of areas, so in the sciences, in health, in engineering, in social sciences. So spread around the university quite a lot, but always manage to find each other and form a community to help support each other through their time at Glasgow and make it more fun. Also worth noting as well that we have lots of good relationships with agreements, with sponsors and funding bodies. I haven't been to Peru myself for a while, since before the pandemic, but we've managed to make visits with Pronabec, for example. So we have good relationships there, and we're able to discuss how to make funding work best for you as students. So a little bit now about Scotland. We're looking at a lovely picture here of the southern part of Scotland, which we call the Borders area, near the border with England. There's some beautiful landscapes in Scotland. You may have seen them if you've watched programs like Outlander. You may have noticed as well that the sun doesn't always shine, but we do get sunshine. We've had quite a good summer just now in Scotland and in Glasgow. So the country itself has been recently voted the most beautiful country in the world, and it's very popular with visitors from all over the world. It offers a lot in terms of outdoor activities, but also when you're thinking about the cities within Scotland, there's a lot of culture on offer. There's a lot of history to explore as well. So within Glasgow, Glasgow is the largest city in Scotland, but you've got Edinburgh very close by, which is just 1 hour away by train, with all of the arts and music and festivals that they offer too. And of course, you've got the Highlands, which is very accessible. You can even get to Loch Lomond, which is our largest loch or lake in Scotland, within 40 minutes of being in Glasgow. So you can travel there by train even. So even if you don't have a car, you can get around Scotland and explore the landscape as much as you want. A little bit about Glasgow now. You're looking at a picture here of one of our largest music venues that we have in the city. So the Hydro is what it's known as. It's recently changed its name to the OVO, so a very similar name, but it's known as being the 4th busiest arena venue in the world. Now, we also have in Glasgow UNESCO City of Music status. So if you like music, Glasgow is a fantastic. The reason we have that status is not just because we have these huge venues where lots of really big famous names will come and do world tours, but we also have really small venues as well. And we have as many as 300 music events happening in every week of the year. And this is starting to get back up to that level following the pandemic, where we are starting to get back to normal now, finally. So also the city of Glasgow is known for being a cultural and creative centre, and it offers lots of festivals, lots of cultural events all year round. And the city itself is the largest city in Scotland, although it's not the capital. The capital is Edinburgh, and it's the 4th largest in the UK. So it gives you an idea of the size. I think we are probably population of Greater Glasgow is around 1 million people. The city itself, although we are surrounded by the amazing landscape that you have to offer in Scotland, it's actually quite a green city within itself. So we have lots of parks, lots of public gardens on offer as well. And a lot of those are located in the west end of Glasgow, where the university is located. So the lifestyle in Glasgow can be really nice and relaxed, even though you're living in a city. It's also been a very good city for hosting recent events. So we have hosted the Commonwealth Games back in 2014, which led to a big regeneration of the city, which we're very proud of and still benefiting from now. And also we have hosted last year the COP26 Climate Change Conference, which happened in November and attracted all the world's leaders. And also we've hosted large sports tournaments like Euro 2020 recently too. Here's a picture of our campus now. So you can see the middle part of the campus is really where a lot of the action happens, and it's where the campus really started to be built from. And it's a Gothic architecture that we have. So it creates a really nice feeling. Some people say it feels a bit like Hogwarts. It's got that nice ancient university feeling in the middle. And then as you go out, you can see there are lots of buildings around which are built at different stages through the campus's history. So you can see lots of different architectural styles as you walk around the campus. So the main building itself was designed in the late 1800s, and the tower that you can see there is something that you see from all over Glasgow. It's a famous part of the skyline of Glasgow. Then more modern buildings that you can see over there in the corner, that's our library, which is 13 stories high, and has lots to offer in terms of books and collections, as well as ancient collections that we house as well. And then the Fraser Building is where all of our student support services are located, including our International Student Support Office. And we also have the James McCune Smith Learning Hub, and we've had the opportunity recently to build new projects within the campus space that we already have. So you can see there's a red space there in that picture. If I take you to the next slide, you'll see the building is already up. It's a learning hub building, which is designed for students to do collaborative work together. So not just quiet spaces for individuals, but lots of different types of meeting spaces that allow students to collaborate and meet up and feel a sense of space when they need to do some studying as well. On top of that, we've been adding to our campus. We've also added a very good research centre, which we're calling the ARC, the Advanced Research Centre, and that's also located right on the campus. So we've managed to remove a few old buildings and replace them with modern state-of-the-art buildings, which really help to enhance the student experience at Glasgow. Back to one of our old buildings here now. So this is really what we call the cloisters, which is in the middle of the quads. So you can see we get the full range of architecture at the University of Glasgow. The subject areas that we offer are almost everything. So we have lots in the arts, humanities, social sciences. We offer a lot in business, accounting, finance, and economics, education, engineering, everything. We have everything in engineering apart from chemical engineering. And we also don't offer architecture. But you can see from the list there, we've got all the clinical programs as well. We have law, we have most of the pure sciences, including computing and psychology. And worth noting as well that we have our master's programs, which most Latin Americans and Peruvian students come to do. They are usually only 1 year in length. With a few exceptions, but that's the normal length of a master's in the UK. So do bear that in mind when you're thinking about planning and budgeting. That can help you to save a bit on costs when it comes to living costs, for example. And then if you're looking at PhD, that's usually between 3 and 4 years altogether. More lovely pictures of the campus as we go through. So I wanted to mention entry requirements very briefly as well. We tend to look for the equivalent of a grade B, a 2-1 is what we call it as a minimum for most of our master's programs, and a similar level for PhD. So from Peru, I think you usually have a rating out of 20. We're usually looking at a minimum of 14 out of 20, and sometimes a little bit higher than that. And do bear in mind that you'll probably need to have a similar background for most of our master's programs. So if you want to do a master's in economics, we would probably expect that you'd have an economics degree or similar. Not always the case. We have some programs where you can switch into business, for example, if you want to, or into psychology as a new subject, but most subjects do require relevant backgrounds. Okay, so a little bit on how to apply. So you can apply direct on our Glasgow website, and we'll be opening up applications for 2023 by the middle of October. So we'll be able to accept your application if you want to apply as soon as possible. And also remember that you can apply, even if you're finishing your bachelor's degree now, you can apply with your latest transcript, and we can then make a decision on whether we would make you an offer or not. And that offer could be conditional or unconditional. So a conditional offer would mean that we're still waiting to get your final degree, but we are very happy to review your application before you get your final documents. And this can help to save time and give you a chance to, with an offer, start applying for funding, for example. Just a little overview of the fees that we have at the University of Glasgow. So they tend to vary a little bit, but they tend to be around £25,000, and it tends to vary related to what you're studying. So it might be a bit more expensive in the business school. It might be a bit more expensive in a program that requires lab space and any kind of consumable materials as well. There's a lovely picture of the campus in the snow. I can't promise snow to all students. We don't always get it, but there's a fairly good chance in the winter that you'll see a bit of snow if you come to Glasgow. So, of course, continuing on the theme of funding, then scholarships are very important, of course, and we are aware that you might be looking at funding from Pronabec as well, and we will talk to Pronabec about possible discounts that we might be able to give if you get funding through Pronabec. But if you aren't successful in that way, then we do have our own scholarships which act as discounts on the fees. They're usually worth up to £10,000, And that means we would reduce your tuition fee by around £10,000. So realistically, that means something like a 30 or maybe a 40% discount on your fees if you get one of our scholarships. So if you have any questions about scholarships, do put them in the chat as well. I'll be happy to help. Okay, and then of course, cost of living. So if you're thinking about the cost of living in Glasgow, comparing it to other UK cities, it is relatively cheap. The thing that really makes a difference is the accommodation cost. So if you were comparing to London, for example, you would probably pay double what we're suggesting for London. So the cost of living can be quite reasonable within Glasgow and in the rest of Scotland, and also in the north of England. It tends to be a bit cheaper than the south of London. But we estimate that in total you would need around £1,000 per month to live comfortably as a student. And then also before I finish, I'm just going to mention accommodation briefly as well. So we do offer accommodation, residences for postgraduate students. We recommend pressure on that accommodation, but as soon as you have an offer from Glasgow for your programme, whether it's conditional or unconditional, you can apply for accommodation, which tends to open up in April time. So if you do think you're going to need accommodation from the university, then apply as soon as you can, and be careful about not applying, because this year we've had a lot of pressure on accommodation. So we want to make sure that students do have a place to live when they do arrive. That's where I'm going to stop for now. So there's our email address if you want to keep that for any future questions that you might have, and hopefully those questions will find their way to me. I'll also put my email address in the chat if that's useful for you to just pick up on later. I am the contact for Latin America at the University of Glasgow, so I'm here to help you. It's completely my job to help you with applications, so any questions that you have, I'd be very happy to help with.